Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Thought I'd just do a casual video on my couch on the 1983 Chateau Mission Haut Brion. Jean de Pontac, and he actually purchased it in 1533. I guess he must have given it to his sister, and then his sister got married to a person called Arnaud de Lestonnac. And then when he died, the estate changed in 1607 to Miss Olive de Lestonnac, and she eventually bequeathed the vineyard to the Congregation of the Mission, which is a Catholic order, and that's how you got the name the Mission Haut Brion. The Mission Haut Brion for a time period belonged to the Roman Catholic Church. Only some of it was used for vineyards. About 10 hectares was used for planting of vineyards, and the grapes were sold commercially. They weren't used in the church at all. It was still owned by the Roman Catholic Church up until the French Revolution, when at that time it was sold at public auction. And then in 1855 there was a person who bought it, an American called the Chiapelle family, and then it changed hands a couple more times, and then in 1919 another person, Frederic Woltner, purchased it. And the Woltner family remained the owners of the Mission Haut Brion until 1983, and then the estate was purchased by Domaine Clarence Dillon, who also owns Chateau Haut Brion, among other properties. And then once really the Clarence Dillon group got involved, that was really the new start of the winery, and the whole estate got replanted. And this wine actually marks the start of this. Was the first vintage under the Clarence Dillon, the Domaine Clarence Dillon group, and also the new winemaker, which at that time was Jean-Pierre Delmas. So you can understand by the history of this why Chateau Haut Brion was a much more famous wine because of the ownership changes, because it was owned by Roman Catholic Church, because it wasn't really mass produced as much as Haut Brion, and its story, it wasn't ranked in the 1855 classification system. Although I think generally speaking, it was equivalent to probably a second growth at that time anyways. So the Mission Haut Brion has 27 hectares planted for red wine grapes and about almost close to 4 hectares planted for white wine grapes. The vineyard for the red wine grapes are planted 45% Cabernet Sauvignon, about 43% Merlot, and about 10% Cabernet Franc. But you've seen steadily an increase in the amount of Merlot that's been in the vineyard, and a decrease in the amount of Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc. This is the technical part, and don't know if it, and again, I've said that in many videos. I do the technical part because people like this type of stuff, but actually it's more a justification of why the wine is good. It actually doesn't make a lot of difference, because we as consumers, doesn't matter how many oak barrels or how you talk about the terroir, the winemakers have so many techniques, but people like to know more, so I kind of talk about this part. So the vineyard is deep gravel over clay and sand and chalk on the topsoil. And underneath you find more gravel, and then along with some clay and some sand. The vineyard is placed on 2 ridges of gravel that reach up to 25 meters in elevation. The vineyard is situated between 2 streams, the Ars and the Penjal, and they provide moisture in the dry vintages. The average age of the vines is 27 years, and it's planted to a density of about 10,000 vines per hectare, which is more than Chateau Haut Brion. So that probably explains the difference between the two wines. One is, of course, the soil is a little bit different. 2 is the planting of the grape varietals is a little bit different. And then 3, this is planted a little bit heavier in terms of the density than Chateau Haut Brion. So you would kind of premise from that probably Chateau Haut Brion is, if you had to empirically judge, more refined or a better wine. So although the chateau is actually across the street from Chateau Haut Brion, it's funny because the actual vineyard sites with Haut Brion, they are in Pessac-Melun. For La Mission Haut Brion, only about, I think, 2 of the actual plots are in Pessac-Melun. The rest of them are in a place called Talents. So the wines are actually vinified in a large stainless steel vats, and then they are aged 100% in new French oak for an average of 22 months. The annual production of the Mission Haut Brion is between 6,000 to 7,000 cases. And something that's, I think, unique is the blending of Le Mission Haut Brion takes place shortly after malolactic fermentation and is finished before they are aged in barrels. And I guess the property feels that it is better to blend the wines before the influence of wood has been felt on the wines. So generally speaking, Le Mission Haut Brion produces a intense, rich, opulent wine with a lot of charm. It's more full-bodied and concentrated than Haut Brion. And so it often has smoke, tobacco, earth, truffle, spice, and cassis scents. So you would kind of, if you have to describe it in terms, it's kind of a rougher version of Haut Brion. Haut Brion to me is a little bit more gravelly and minerally and earthy, but still refined in terms of its tannins. Le Mission, generally speaking, is a little bit more tannic and a little bit rougher around the edges. That changed if you drink, we're going to drink this wine, but if you drink pre-1983, it was even rougher and more austere than it is now. And I think it's more developed through the current ownership and the winemaker, a much more charming and opulent style. So again, it's now currently managed by Jean-Philippe Delmas, and he is the third generation of Delmas family to manage Haut Brion, and the second generation to take care of Le Mission Haut Brion. So he followed in the footsteps of his father, Jean-Bernard Delmas, who was the original winemaker in 1983 that took over the management of the vines for the Mission Haut Brion. Let's look at the cork and the bottle. So this is the cork. It's fully oxidized. There's not a lot of spring in the left, but it's 1983. So what do you expect? Cork is perfect, but you'll find with some of these old corks, they're really kind of solid right now and almost a little bit, they feel like they're almost caramelized. But it's still an effective cork. You'll see on the bottle, it's kind of funny. The original price of this was $36. You can see a huge amount of sediment on this. This is a label, and we'll look at the wine color. It looks, of course, there's a little bit of aging, the brownness around the stem, but it's actually quite a nice color for 83, and still looks like it has a lot of life in it. So let's taste the wine. I'll let you know that this has been opened. It's well aerated now. This is the second bottle I've had of this wine, so I'm quite familiar with this wine in terms of tasting notes. I had it initially when it opened, had it for a couple hours. I've had it overnight now. And so one of the things that is not very highly rated by the different magazines and raters, but again, this is the importance of continuing to drink the wine and getting very recent ratings, because a wine that they rated 10 years ago is much different today. So let's taste and smell the wine. So on the smell, very floral, almost like a sweet, like cinnamon, cassis, and anise, very floral in the aroma, very sweet fruit, some dark berry also. This does not, to me, smell like an old or past its prime wine at all. On the taste, still lots of fruit, lots of vibrancy. Red fruit, I would say, red berries, dried cranberries. Not as earthy and gravelly as Haut Brion, but a little bit stronger in terms of the intensity. It's not, again, it's a rougher type wine, and it's got a lot of red fruit, like calcium or minerally on the aftertaste. That kind of reminds me of like rocks, like red stones or red clay rocks or stones. Very minerally, actually, in fact, on the aftertaste. But still lots of fruit on this wine. I really like this wine, and despite whatever critics say, to me it's a 93-point wine. It's spectacular, it's exceptional, it's drinking very nicely right now. Could it last another 5 or 10 years? I would probably think it probably lasts another 5 years easily, but why wait? There's no real reason to wait right now. It's perfect right now. Very vibrant, good acidity, good body. I'd say medium bodied, medium tannins, but the taste are all there. So this is really when I think Bordeaux is classic, because at this point all the tannins have been resolved. So you're really just, if you're not a big alcoholic person like me and you don't like huge tannins, you're just getting fruit and the secondary and tertiary taste right now. You're just getting the taste of the wine, and really the tannins are giving you a little bit of backbone and structure, but it's not bothering you in terms of the taste profile. So beautiful wine, really happy bottle. This is the second bottle I've had, so pretty consistent notes, and really lovely wine. Hope you've enjoyed this review. Until next time, happy drinking.